I'm way back here somewhere in the 3rd millennium BCE, where the ancient Sumerians developed the sexagesimal number system. Sexagesimal? What does that mean? It just means 60, since 60 is the base number in that system. The Babylonians modified and refined that system, and it became a way for people to think about time and astronomy. Think about it, we use that today. 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, and 360 degrees in a circle. Now, those ancient Babylonians really kept busy. They invented what were called shadow clocks. Now, around 700 BCE, in the Old Testament, it mentioned the dial of Ahaz. That seems to be the very first mention of what we call today a sundial. Water clocks probably came before sundials. Now, water clocks use vessels and bowls with markings to show the passage of time as water either flows into or out of the container. They were used like stopwatches we use today. The earliest physical evidence was found all the way back in the 14th century BCE during the reign of Amenhotep III of Egypt, where it was used in the temple of Amun-Re in Karnak. The hourglass is just a variation on a water clock, and it uses sand to show the passage of time. It was developed in Alexandria, Egypt in about 150 BCE. Now, it's important to remember that these advancements in keeping time were really only used by people of certain classes and for very specific reasons. The regular person, they measured time by the sun coming up and the sun going down, and by the passage of the sun throughout the sky all day long. I'm all the way back in between the 7th and 9th century. I'm examining mechanical clocks. Now, mechanical clocks were developed before most people realized. The first mechanical clock was made by Yi Xing. He was a Buddhist monk and a mathematician in the Tang Dynasty. Yi's clock operated with water steadily dripping on a wheel that made a full revolution every 24 hours. And as time went on, clocks were made with an iron and bronze system of hooks, pins, locks, and rods, but they still followed Yi Xing's clock design. A few hundred years later, Su Song, an astronomer and mechanist of the Song Dynasty, created a more sophisticated clock, making him the ancestor of the modern clock. As these mechanical clocks continued to improve and we understood more about how time passed, we needed to find a new way to measure time. In October of 1582, the Gregorian calendar was introduced. It was named after Pope Gregory XIII, and it's the calendar that most of us use today. It made some very important adjustments to the Julian calendar that had been used before. It created definite dates for the solstices and equinoxes, and a new pattern for leap years. A solar calendar with consecutively numbered years, the Gregorian calendar places leap years every 4 years in years exactly divisible by 4, except for years that are exactly divisible by 100. But those centurial years are leap years if they're exactly divisible by 400. Huh? Well, think about it this way. The years 1700, 1800, and 1900 are not leap years, but the year 2000 is. Over the course of the next 400 plus years, our understanding of time has continued to evolve, and our ability to measure it has continued to be refined. In order to help with global communications and travel, in 1913, the city of Greenwich, England was determined to be 0 degrees longitude, with the prime meridian running through the center of the Royal Greenwich Observatory. By 1949, America's National Bureau of Standards had developed the first atomic clock. And by 1995, the U.S. Department of Defense finally got the Global Positioning System, or GPS, fully online. And the combination of atomic clocks and satellites like these has now given us the most accurate measurement of time ever in human history.